We often think of schools as sanctuaries, places of learning and laughter, but sometimes the halls echo with a different kind of sound, a silence, thick with fear. This is the chilling reality of school lockdowns, where the ordinary transforms into the unthinkable. These stories are not for the faint of heart. They delve into the raw terror that grips students and teachers when danger lurks just beyond the classroom door. They remind us that even in the most familiar of places, darkness can descend in an instant. Prepare yourself, for we are about to journey into the heart of 3 true school lockdown stories. Stories that will stay with you long after the last word is read. The clock ticked slowly, each second dragging on as if time itself was reluctant to move forward. Towards the end of a long week. It was Friday afternoon, the final stretch before the weekend, and the anticipation was palpable. In a bustling high school, the hallways were filled with the usual end-of-week chatter and laughter, students eager to escape the confines of their classrooms. Inside one of those classrooms, a calculus class was in session. Students scribbled equations, their pencils scratching against paper in a rhythmic dance of numbers and variables. Yet, despite their efforts to focus, their minds were already drifting towards the weekend, daydreams of freedom and fun tugging at their attention. Suddenly, a piercing buzz shattered the quiet hum of learning. The sound was jarring, an unwelcome intruder in their routine. The announcement crackled over the loudspeaker, its static-laden voice cutting through the air with an urgency that demanded immediate attention. Each word sent a jolt of fear through the room, the students' faces transforming from confusion to shock in an instant. Lockdown. This is not a drill. Lockdown. The words echoed in their minds, a chilling reminder of the potential dangers lurking just outside their door. The teacher's face turned pale as he sprang into action, his training kicking in despite the fear that gripped him. He locked the door with trembling hands, turned off the lights, and motioned for the students to move to the corner farthest from the windows. The students obeyed, their movements hurried and filled with a sense of urgency. They huddled together, seeking comfort in their shared fear. Whispers of confusion quickly turned to hushed panic as the reality of the situation set in. What was happening? Why were they in lockdown? A man had been spotted on school grounds, his presence an ominous shadow that loomed over the school. He was acting erratically, his intentions unknown and his behavior unpredictable. The uncertainty was terrifying. He was described as agitated, possibly armed. The thought sent a wave of dread through the students and teachers alike. Fear hung heavy in the air, a suffocating blanket of uncertainty that wrapped around them, making it hard to breathe. The classroom, once a place of learning and safety, now felt like a cage, trapping them in a situation they had no control over. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle outside the door, amplified their fear. Each sound was a potential threat, a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the walls. The shadow moving outside the door, the soft rustling sound, it all sent shivers down their spines. The unknown was the most terrifying part. The students huddled together, their eyes wide with fear, their hearts pounding in unison with the ticking clock. They held on to each other, seeking solace in the shared experience. Their wide eyes reflected the terror they felt, a mirror to the collective anxiety that gripped the room. The clock continued to tick, each second a reminder of the passage of time, yet it felt as though time had stopped. Their hands clasped tightly, a silent promise to stay strong for each other. The teacher, despite his own fear, remained a pillar of strength. His determination to protect his students was evident in his every action. Among the students, a sense of resolve began to take root. They knew they had to stay calm, to follow the teacher's instructions, to trust in the safety protocols they had practiced so many times before. They gripped each other's hands, a silent show of support and solidarity. In that moment, they were not just classmates. They were a united front against the unknown threat. Outside, the sound of sirens grew louder as police cars arrived at the scene. The officers moved quickly, their presence a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. The police officers entered the school with serious expressions, their focus unwavering. They were there to ensure the safety of everyone inside. One officer spoke to the teacher, giving clear instructions on what to do next. The teacher nodded, his resolve strengthened by the presence of law enforcement. The students listened intently, their fear slowly giving way to a glimmer of hope. They knew they were not alone. Help had arrived. Outside, officers patrolled the school grounds, their vigilance a reassuring sight. They were there to protect, to ensure that the threat was neutralized. The officer spoke into his radio, coordinating with others to secure the area. Their efficiency and professionalism were a stark contrast to the chaos that had erupted. Inside the classroom, the teacher offered words of comfort and reassurance. He reminded the students that they were safe, that the police were handling the situation. The students took deep breaths, trying to calm their racing hearts. They knew they had to stay strong, to trust in the adults around them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, A police officer gave the all-clear signal. The threat had been neutralized, and the lockdown was lifted. Relief washed over the classroom as students and teacher hugged, their ordeal finally over. They had faced their fear and come out the other side, stronger and more united than before. The clock continued to tick, but now it was a comforting sound, a reminder that life goes on. The students knew that they would carry this experience with them, a testament to their resilience and strength. October brought with it a chill in the air, and a steady drizzle that seemed to mirror the unease settling over in elementary school. The leaves had turned shades of amber and crimson, but the beauty of fall was overshadowed by a sense of foreboding. The rain, relentless and cold, seemed to whisper secrets of impending doom to anyone who would listen. Lunchtime buzz filled the cafeteria as children chatted and giggled, oblivious to the danger lurking outside. The clatter of trays and the hum of conversation created a comforting cacophony, a stark contrast to the sinister presence that loomed just beyond the school walls. Friends shared stories and laughter, their innocence a fragile shield against the unknown. Unbeknownst to them, an unstable individual had been seen lurking near the playground, his eyes fixed on the school building. He moved with a purpose, his intentions shrouded in mystery and malice. The playground, usually a place of joy and freedom, now stood as a silent witness to his dark thoughts. Teachers had noticed him earlier but dismissed him as a passerby, unaware of the threat he posed. The alarm shrieked, its high-pitched wail cutting through the lunchtime chatter. Panic spread like wildfire as the realization of danger dawned on the students and staff. The once lively cafeteria fell into chaos, the sound of the alarm a harbinger of the terror that was about to unfold. Children dropped their food, eyes wide with fear as they looked to their teachers for guidance. The principal's voice, usually calm and reassuring, now trembled with urgency as he announced the lockdown. Attention, students and staff, this is not a drill. Please proceed to your designated lockdown areas immediately. His words echoed through the halls, a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation. The principal, a pillar of strength for the school, now faced the daunting task of keeping everyone safe. Teachers reacted swiftly, herding children under tables, their voices a mix of calm authority and barely concealed fear. They moved with practiced precision, their training kicking in as they tried to maintain order amidst the chaos. "Stay quiet, stay low," they whispered, their eyes scanning the room for any sign of danger. The children, sensing the gravity of the situation, obeyed without question, their trust in their teachers absolute. The rain continued to fall, each drop a tiny hammer blow on the taut nerves of those trapped inside. The sound of the rain, once soothing, now felt like a relentless reminder of their predicament. It was as if the heavens themselves were mourning the innocence lost on this dreadful day. The windows, streaked with rain, offered no solace, only a distorted view of the outside world. Minutes stretched into an eternity as they waited, the silence punctuated by the relentless drumming of rain and the muffled sobs of frightened children. Each second felt like a lifetime, the uncertainty gnawing at their resolve. The children clung to each other, seeking comfort in the presence of their friends. The teachers, though terrified themselves, put on brave faces, offering whispered reassurances to their young charges. The unseen threat outside cast a long, dark shadow over the room, amplifying their fear and uncertainty. Every creak of the building, every gust of wind, felt like a potential harbinger of doom. The shadowy figure, a specter of their worst fears, loomed large in their minds. The lockdown, though necessary, felt like a prison, trapping them in a state of perpetual anxiety. Outside, the sound of sirens grew louder as police cars arrived at the scene. Law enforcement officers trained for such emergencies moved with purpose and determination. Their presence brought a glimmer of hope to those inside, a sign that help was on the way. The officers, armed and ready, prepared to confront the threat head-on, their mission clear, to protect the innocent and neutralize the danger. Meanwhile, parents gathered outside the school, their faces etched with worry and fear. News of the lockdown had spread quickly, and they had rushed to the scene, desperate for any information about their children. The rain-soaked crowd huddled together, their collective anxiety palpable. They clung to each other for support, their hearts heavy with dread and hope. After what felt like an eternity, the lockdown was lifted, and police officers began escorting children out of the school. The sight of their children, safe and unharmed, brought tears of relief to the parents' eyes. Emotional reunions played out in the rain, as parents hugged their children tightly, grateful for their safety. The threat had been neutralized, but the scars of the day's events would linger long after the rain had stopped. In the days that followed, the school brought in counselors to help the children process their emotions. The events of that rainy day had left a deep impact, and the road to healing would be long. The counselors, with their gentle words and understanding, provided a safe space for the children to express their fears and anxieties. The school community, united by the shared experience, began the slow journey towards recovery. As the weeks passed, the rain gave way to sunshine, and the school grounds once again echoed with the sounds of laughter and play. The children, resilient and strong, began to reclaim their sense of normalcy. The playground, once a place of fear, became a symbol of their courage and resilience. The memory of the rainy day terror would never be forgotten, but it would no longer define them. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. In the basement of a bustling university library, a young intern was engrossed in her work. The dim light cast long shadows across the room, creating an almost eerie atmosphere. She was surrounded by the scent of old books and the soft hum of the computer, a comforting background noise that helped her focus on her tasks. Surrounded by towering bookshelves, she felt a sense of comfort and security. These shelves, filled with knowledge and history, were her sanctuary. Each book was a world of its own, a portal to different times and places. She often lost herself in the pages, finding solace in the stories and information they held. The outside world, with its chaos and uncertainty, seemed a million miles away. The bustling city streets, filled with the noise of traffic and the rush of people, were a stark contrast to the tranquil interior of the library. Here, time seemed to stand still, and the worries of the outside world faded into the background. But on this day, the illusion of safety would be shattered. The familiar environment that once brought her peace now felt ominous. The shadows seemed darker, the silence more profound. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. It began subtly, a faint buzzing sound that she initially dismissed as a faulty light fixture. The flickering light added to the unsettling atmosphere, casting erratic shadows on the walls. She tried to ignore it, focusing on her work, but the sound grew louder, more insistent. But then came the announcement, echoing through the loudspeaker, its tone grave and urgent. The voice was calm, but carried an undercurrent of tension that sent a chill down her spine. She stopped what she was doing, her heart pounding in her chest. Lockdown, this is not a drill. The words reverberated through the library, each syllable heavy with meaning. She had heard about lockdown drills before, but this was different. This was real. The gravity of the situation hit her like a ton of bricks. Lockdown. The intern's heart skipped a beat. Her mind raced with questions. What was happening? Was there a threat inside the library? She felt a surge of panic, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. She had never felt so vulnerable, so exposed. This was her first experience with a real lockdown, and fear pulsed through her veins like a live wire. She gripped the edge of the desk, her knuckles white with tension. She had to stay calm, had to think clearly, but it was hard when every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide. She scrambled out of her chair, her eyes darting around the basement, searching for a place to hide. The room that once felt like a haven now seemed like a trap. She needed to find a safe spot, somewhere she could wait out the danger. The usually comforting silence of the library now felt oppressive, amplifying every creak and groan of the old building. Each sound seemed magnified, echoing in the stillness. She could hear her own heartbeat, loud and frantic in her ears. She was alone, trapped in a labyrinth of bookshelves, with a danger she couldn't see and didn't understand. The rows of books that once felt like friends now seemed like walls closing in on her. She moved cautiously, trying to stay quiet, her senses on high alert. She found a spot behind a tall bookshelf and crouched down, trying to make herself as small as possible. She peeked out from behind the books, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of movement. The minutes felt like hours as she waited, her body tense with fear. Her hands trembled as she clutched a book to her chest, seeking comfort in its familiar weight. She tried to steady her breathing, to calm her racing heart. She reminded herself that she had to stay strong, that she couldn't let fear overwhelm her. She pulled out her phone, hoping for some information, some clue about what was happening. The screen was filled with emergency alerts, each one more alarming than the last. She read them quickly, her mind struggling to process the information. She sent a quick text to her family, letting them know she was safe but scared. She didn't want to worry them, but she needed to reach out, to feel connected to someone in this moment of isolation. She hoped they would understand, that they would be there for her. She looked around nervously, her mind racing with possibilities. What if the threat was closer than she thought? What if she couldn't find a safe place in time? She tried to push these thoughts away, to focus on staying calm and alert. Suddenly she heard a noise, a faint rustling that sent a jolt of fear through her. She held her breath, straining to hear more. Was it just her imagination, or was someone else in the basement with her? She couldn't be sure, and the uncertainty was maddening. She moved quietly, trying to stay hidden, her heart pounding in her chest. Every step felt like a risk, every sound a potential threat. She had to be careful, had to stay out of sight. She didn't know what she was up against, but she knew she had to survive. She found another hiding spot, this time behind a large desk. She crouched down, her body tense and ready to move at a moment's notice. She listened intently, her senses on high alert. She had to be prepared for anything. Despite the fear, she felt a surge of determination. She wasn't going to let this situation break her. She was strong, capable, and she would get through this. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever came next. She heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing through the basement. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had to think clearly, had to be ready to act. She couldn't let fear control her. She grabbed a heavy book, ready to use it as a weapon if necessary. She wasn't sure what she was up against, but she knew she had to be prepared. She held the book tightly, her knuckles white with tension. She waited in silence, every muscle in her body tense. She listened to the footsteps, trying to gauge their distance. She had to be ready, had to stay focused. She couldn't afford to let her guard down. The footsteps eventually faded, and she allowed herself to relax slightly. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She knew she wasn't out of danger yet, but she felt a glimmer of hope. She had made it this far, and she would keep fighting. With renewed determination, she prepared to face whatever came next. She wasn't going to let fear control her. She was strong, and she would survive. She took another deep breath, ready to face the unknown.